And I stopped and I looked at this recipe and I thought, what else could I do with this technique? And so I played around with the texture and I thought about the ingredients that I could put into it, and the idea for carnivore mashed potatoes came from it. And I just thought about some things, put it all together, and I threw this all into a blender and I put it together and I kind of played with liquid ratios until I got the texture where I wanted it. And I scooped it out and I tasted it and my eyes got great big because it tasted like mashed potatoes.
It's amazing.
And it was so cool.
Today, I am in person with a very special guest. This is the carnivore mad scientist of cooking, Chris Delisle of Chris Cooking Nashville. Chris is known for taking standard American favorites and transforming them into fully carnivore, low-carb options that allow you to enjoy your favorite meals without impacting your metabolic health in a negative way. I first met Chris and Ash, his wonderful wife, at Meatstock 2025, and we became fast friends because they are simply amazing people. So Chris, thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, Jenny, thank you so much for being here and sitting down with me.
Yes, we have so much to talk about. I want to start by talking about your background.
Okay.
Tell me a little bit about how you got into cooking.
Yeah, so my mom was the one that got me into cooking. When I was a little kid, 3, 4 years old enough to sit up and behave well enough, she was in the kitchen all the time cooking. My parents had no money, and so she would get cookbooks from the library and she would go into the kitchen and use the things that were on sale at the store to cook. And to keep me entertained, she would sit me on the counter next to her and she would cook and she would have me help. And in the process of doing that, invented this game where she would take spices out of this little spice rack we had that hung on the wall, and they'd gotten it for their wedding, and she kept these. It was the one kind of nice thing in her kitchen, and she just really enjoyed having these spices. And so she played this game where she would take a spice off the rack, she would hide the label so I couldn't see what it was, and she would unscrew the cap and she would let me smell it. And she had me guess what it was. By 4 years old, I memorized her spice rack by smell. And since then, I just kind of was always in the kitchen with her, and it was an important thing in our family. She had a whole history of cooking handed down through our family from her grandmother, who was very well known in the area where we come from for pies and like all these incredible dishes that she could make and all this stuff. And so family recipes were important. So it was a whole culture for us. And as I got older, I really enjoyed hanging out with my parents, watching Food Network and Cooking Channel. And then, of course, when YouTube came around and you could go and watch all your favorite chefs from all around the world anytime you wanted, I would watch celebrity chefs, Michelin star restaurant chefs, and I would just try to learn technique and understand things about food and study food from different cultures around the world, just because I was passionate about it. And I really enjoyed trying different things, and I fell in love with cooking. And then life was kind of in the way, and I didn't get a chance to do very much of it in college and post-college. I was working all the time, which is part of the reason I got so unhealthy, because I was eating out and eating junk. And when I met Ash, my lovely wife, she is not one to cook. She does not like cooking at all. And I was totally all right with that because I love to cook. And as a way to take care of her and just our family and that kind of stuff, I started cooking a lot more regularly again. And I kind of reignited that passion for doing it. And I dove in super deep as a way to just, do stuff for her and make her favorite dishes or try new things. And it's just had led down this long rabbit hole where cooking is now just a massive passion of my life and what I do now full time, really.
Yeah. So you don't have like a chef training, like schooling? Like, what's your schooling in?
So I have a degree from the School of Music Business at Belmont University in songwriting with a minor in classical guitar, which is why I'm Chris Cooking Nashville. It's why I'm in Nashville, because I'm a full-time musician. And the food thing was, especially the YouTube side of the food thing, was an accident, really. And I have no formal training of any kind with food. I'd like to say I am a very well-researched, home-trained chef.
Nice.
So.
Yeah. Well, you don't have to have training in order to be an amazing chef.
Right.
I mean, that's been proven time and time again. I am happy to announce that my new book, Complete Carnivore, is now available for pre-order. Complete Carnivore is an in-depth guide to the carnivore diet along with 80 plus carnivore recipes. And they're not just like cooking meat recipes. There's recipes for carnivores at any stage of their journey, and it definitely helps you mix it up a little bit if you're getting bored on the carnivore diet. When I was writing this book, I was really aiming to make this like the encyclopedia of the carnivore diet, and I am super excited for you to read it. Pre-sales are a huge deal for any first-time author, so if you'd like to show your support for me in any way, please consider pre-ordering this book. I will put the links in the show notes. Amazon and Barnes & Noble both have really good pre-order deals, where you will get the lowest price the book ever was from the time that you pre-order it to the time it's released. So let's say, for example, Amazon has a flash sale on my book, and you've already pre-ordered it, but then it goes down in price to like $20. Well, on release day, you will pay that $20 lowest price because you had already pre-ordered the book. Also, the book typically ships on release day, so you get it right away. Let's get this book onto every bookstore shelf in America and share the healing power of the carnivore diet with the world. Pre-order links are in the show notes, and I thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate it. So you love cooking, you grew up with it, it's your passion. How did that kind of turn to keto carnivore focus? You have had kind of your own weight loss journey, correct?
Yeah. So I started out on keto because I had gotten to around 400 pounds, actually probably over 400 pounds. There's a certain point you just stop getting on scales because it's just depressing. But I had actually lost some weight. And so I know for a fact I was at least 385, but I had lost weight by that point. So I'm sure I was over 400 pounds. And we found keto. We started listening to Dr. Barry and all of the other influencers that you might think of, and I went down the rabbit hole of keto and carnivore and learning about these things. And so I did keto, had really great success, decided I wanted to try carnivore because I wanted to see if I could lose a little extra weight for the wedding pictures. And so I did carnivore the first time, and I found this amazing brain awakening. Right? But I was doing like really strict carnivore, like meat, salt, water, maybe occasionally some spices. And I was really, really low on like any kind of dairy intake. Like I was really strict with it.
How long did you do that?
That was probably 3 or so months that I stuck with it really strictly. And I was doing that. Ash was doing keto. So I'd make 3 servings of whatever meat we were having, 1 serving of low carb veg. She would have meat and veg. I would have just meat and eggs and that kind of stuff. And that did really well. I felt great. We got married, and I did not deal with a carbohydrate addiction. And I did not deal with how do I understand my identity as someone who loves food and loves to try food, and I love to cook for people. When I cook for someone, that's me saying I love you. It always has been, and it always will be. And I wasn't doing it anymore. I didn't get the chance to do that because you can only cook a steak so many ways. And it's fantastic. They all taste great, but there is a creative element that I lost, and I never dealt with that or the carbohydrate addiction. So I went back off the rails. I gained a bunch of weight back, and I was sick for probably about a year. It took me to finally get my head wrapped back around this. And so Ash and I were getting ready to move, and I said, I'm not going to be able to go up and down the stairs to help move things out of this apartment we were living in at the time, because I literally couldn't walk up and down the stairs without being winded and having to sit down because I'd gained weight and so much inflammation had come back and everything. And so I told Ash I wanted to do carnivore again, and I was like, we're just gonna have to figure this out because we know it works. And she was like totally supportive and like, okay, great. So I went to carnivore, she went back to keto. And the thing that I really started to recognize quickly was I started immediately missing the things I was cooking again. And I was like, I really wish I could just make more recipe stuff, just even if it's carnivore ingredients, to have fun in the kitchen again. And so I went on YouTube and I was looking for carnivore recipes, and there weren't really that many.
Yeah.
There are some out there, but a lot of them are they're just kind of the same ideas sort of used slightly different ways again, because that's just what everybody's learned. So that's what they kind of then redo. And so I told Ash, I'd had this goal of in the new year starting a YouTube channel. And so I said, I'm going to start this YouTube channel. I'm going to do health vlogs. I'm going to document my journey because, as Dr. Barry has said, tell your story, you can inspire someone and save their life. And it's the best way to thank all of the people on the internet who have helped save your life, is to go out and take that knowledge and try to use it to save someone else's life and us grow the community together. And so I was going to do the health vlogs, and I thought, well, I'll put up the things that I'm eating, and it'll give me this kind of feeling like I have a cooking show thing, which is kind of, a dream that I could never imagine doing. But I was like, well, that'd be fun. So I started doing that, and I was doing this really strange, like, combining of a couple ingredients, playing with like classic French techniques and just seeing what I could make it do and using it in weird ways. And so I came up with a gravy recipe that was thickened with egg yolks, where I cook it together very much like a French custard, like a sabayon or something like that would be. Instead of sweet, it's savory. And I, for whatever reason, got the idea I should reach out to Anita from Ketogenic Woman and send this video that I had done on YouTube of this recipe and just thank her for some of the recipes that she has put out, because I was watching her amongst other people for some of these recipes that were out there. And I sent her this gravy recipe, and I was like, I just thought maybe you might find this interesting. Just wanted to thank you for the work you do. And something about my email, I guess, really struck a chord with her. And she messaged me back and said, this is so cool. I'm so proud of you for doing this. I'm going to share this recipe. I'm going to feature it in a video on my channel. And so she did, and she sent some people my way, and I got this little like boost of subscribers. And so I just lit a fire for me that I wanted to do this. And so I leaned in simultaneously to how do I post recipes on YouTube and start to grow things so that I can reach further and reach more people. And I really started leaning into the science of cooking and using all of these cooking techniques that I have learned over the last 30 years of my life plus, in a way that nobody else had thought of. And how do I think outside the box, take carnivore ingredients and push the bounds of what I can make them do? And in the process of doing that, I found this really cool stability with staying on carnivore, where maybe I'm having a little more dairy and my weight loss is slower, but my lifestyle is sustainable, and I don't lose out on this idea that I can cook for people and I can do special things. And then suddenly I started coming up with these ideas like carnivore mashed potatoes, carnivore potato salad, carnivore pasta noodles that are, piped into hot water, and like all of these weird, almost molecular gastronomy type things based on classic cooking techniques with completely different ingredients, or using a technique in a way that no other chef I've ever seen has done it, but just because it made sense to me to try. And I started doing these weird things, and I started creating dishes that people are attached to from a social and cultural standpoint, where it's not even so much about the carbs, it's about every time the family gets together, we have Aunt so-and-so's potato salad. Right? And it's like, especially for people who have passed on and these family recipes have been handed down, or it's a tradition, you lose all of that when you stop eating those things. And even if that's the goal where you eventually want to get to, flipping that switch can be very hard. And it was for me. And so understanding that and changing my perspective on this and saying, if I cook these things and I make them carnivore, I don't have to compromise on the ingredients I'm putting in my body. And I can find a new way to appreciate the social and cultural expectations of food. And it really turned into a totally new perspective on what keto and carnivore could be. And I call myself the gateway drug to carnivore, right? Because if you can get someone who's just so stuck on a standard American diet and says, I could never do carnivore because I can't live without this and this and this and this, and you give them these recipes, and it gets them to stop and think for half a second, like, well, maybe I could. That is planting a seed that turns into the ability to change somebody's life. And it may not happen overnight, and it may be a long journey, and it's never a linear journey. It's always an up and down, but you are starting little by little to change the idea of what food culture is. And in a long-term view, 100, 200 years from now, I'm thinking maybe people could look at this and be like, well, yeah, of course you make noodles out of protein, because we know that that's how you should eat, and this is just a normal thing now. And you can completely change the idea of what food means to you in terms of the combination of its ingredients and the social impact of it. because we're social beings and you're never going to get away from that. So if you can put those two things together where the ingredients are good for you and you still have the social and cultural elements that are so important, that's how you reach not just the few people who are already ready to jump on carnivore.
Yeah.
That's how you reach people, billions of them around the world someday.
That's how you reach the masses.
That's how you do it. That's how you do it. You make it seem less scary to people who could never imagine doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I totally resonate with that because my husband is Serbian American and we have tons of family members, and a big part of that culture, a lot of it is it's meat, but a lot of it is also bread.
Yeah.
And his uncle was like, "Hey, what are you doing? You look great." He's like, "Well, I'm doing carnivore. I'm not really." He's like, "Well, do you eat any bread?" He's like, "No, I haven't eaten bread in years." And he's like, "Oh, I couldn't do that." Right. But you have some amazing bread recipes that are like legit bread, not just this kind of booky bread that you find in these keto recipes that are garbage. Like, this bread is real.
Right. And that's the kind of thing that, I as I was looking at recipes and I was, trying other things I found online, there are things out there that are substitutes that people have used, and all credit to the creators who have created these things, because they were starting from nothing and making this. But any good culinary person takes what has already been created, figures out what was good about it, and then figures out what can be improved, and then you go the next step. And this is how cooking in the West especially has been done ever since Escoffier wrote Le Guide Culinaire, which is like the Bible of Western cooking that every chef learns from, right? And it's just, he created thousands of recipes. And we take those techniques and we learn how to create more things and how to take it one step further and do new things. And so I applied the exact same thing to these things like carnivore breads that were out there. And it's like, it's good, but here's the things that I hear people who don't like those recipes. These are the things they want to see improved. Right. So how do you do it? And so I started working with things, and I think the one that maybe caught me off guard that really was like a turning point in my viewpoint of this was my carnivore white bread recipe. And I'm still looking to how I can improve it even further, but I was watching a video on TikTok, of all places, which I rarely ever spend any time on, and I saw this old school baking recipe, and it was Dylan Hollis. I don't know if you've ever watched him, but he does all of these like vintage baking things from like the 20s and 30s and 40s and all these old recipes. And it was almost like an angel food cake is what he was really doing. And he was using whipped egg whites and then whipped cream and folding it together and using sugar and all this kind of stuff to make this cake that didn't have to have a leavening in it. And that's the problem with carnivore bread, is we're not using leavening, but we still have to get it fluffy. And I looked at that and I was like, this might be the answer I've been looking for, because how do you incorporate fat into an egg white so that it's not dry when you bake it and gets that foamy, choky texture that it can very easily get? Well, you have to combat that with fat. But as soon as you add fat into it, it all falls apart and the egg white just turns back into a scrambled egg. Right. And so I was like, how do you do this? And I saw this recipe and I really started thinking, well, if I take the whipped egg whites and I use egg white powder instead of flour, and I make the whipped cream, and then I fold these two together, well, then I can incorporate egg yolks, because if I can make the whipped cream, I can add the yolks back in, so there's even more fat. And it took me down this whole thought process, right? And I created this thing that I was like, I don't know if this is going to work or not. And I tweaked it, and sure enough, I was able to turn it into this white bread recipe. And Ash is always my gauge of whether these things are working and really improved or not, because I've made a couple of carnivore bread recipes for her in the past, and she was like, thank you so much for making this, and she spit it out because it was not good. and she really is one of those people who's like, if it doesn't taste really good and taste like the real thing, I'm not going to lie to myself just to convince myself it is. I'd rather just not have it. Right. So when I made the white bread recipe, it toasted. I was able to cook it in a pan, make grilled cheese. I was able to do all this stuff, and she would eat it and she enjoyed it. And I was able to make like a keto club and, these kinds of things that she really enjoyed. And it really was a turning point for me of, if you find the right combination of things and you give it to someone who doesn't generally like these things, and you can get them to say, this is really great, you've found something, and you can really use it to help a lot of other people. So I've done different versions of bread now and other things, but that one was, a really complex problem that I had been thinking about and trying to figure out a new approach to it. And I found something online that just clicked into place, and I was able to do it. And so that's what I do with all of these recipes now.
Yeah, I was going to ask, is that kind of like your process? You think of like, okay, I'm going to make this, standard American staple, but how can I make it carnivore? And then you just kind of tap into...
Yeah, it goes different directions. So sometimes I have a recipe I'm trying to emulate, and then I'm thinking, what technique can I use to do it? Sometimes I see another recipe and I see a technique that makes a certain recipe, and then I go, well, what could I do with that technique? And I don't have a specific recipe in mind until I go, well, if I did this and this and this, and I think about this texture and this flavor and this combination and this chemical reaction and then this temperature of cooking or this cooking method, dehydrator versus oven versus pan versus whatever, it leads me in the direction of, well, I could then turn that into such and such. And so like my carnivore mashed potatoes, for example, I was doing scrambled egg puddings that I had seen other creators doing different versions of this, be it hard-boiled egg puddings or scrambled egg puddings or these kinds of things. And I had actually made it for my brother-in-law because he had dental surgery. And so I made this carnivore, pudding for him so that he could have something to eat, and he loved it. And I stopped and I looked at this recipe and I thought, what else could I do with this technique? And so I played around with the texture and I thought about the ingredients that I could put into it, and the idea for carnivore mashed potatoes came from it. And I just thought about some things, put it all together, and I threw this all into a blender and I put it together, and I kind of played with liquid ratios until I got the texture where I wanted it, and I scooped it out and I tasted it, and my eyes got great big because it tasted like mashed potatoes.
It's amazing.
And it was so cool.
Yeah, my husband showed me that video and I'm like, what? Because on the thumbnail, it's like they look like legit mashed potatoes. Amazing.
Yeah.
That's just wild to me. Wild to me. How many views did that video get?
Oh gosh, the last time I checked the original carnivore mashed potato video, I think that's getting close to 500,000 views, I think. The 2.0 version of it, where I actually took it and then modified and made it a little easier to make, I think that's up in the 300,000 range, something like that. Like, people love that recipe.
Yeah.
It's been reviewed by a number of YouTubers.
So many.
It's the one that makes everybody, and I think part of it was just people were like, there's no possible way this can be real.
Well, that's what I told Goran. I was like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
And then we watched it and I'm like, wait, this is real.
Yeah, it's one, I think it catches people really off guard because, I've had so many people tell me, like, I never thought I would have this again, and I've tried the cauliflower mash and I just can't do it.
It's completely different.
It's just, there's nothing wrong with cauliflower. If you like it, I think that's cool. I love cauliflower when it's cauliflower. If I'm having keto stuff for whatever reason, I can totally do that. I don't want to try to convince myself it's mashed potatoes.
No, it's not mashed potatoes.
Yeah,
it's mashed cauliflower. Let's be real.
It just doesn't taste anything like a mashed potato. And it's just, for me, it's not worth the effort and the carbs that come with cauliflower. And so I'm just like, I don't really want to do that. But this, when I do the carnivore mashed potatoes and not the cauliflower stuff, I really am willing to put in the work because the quality that comes out of it makes me so happy. And I've fed that to multiple people where I make that recipe. And one of them actually is a good buddy of mine who has a YouTube channel and does keto stuff. And he was here and we did a video with him where I did these Manhattan style, like, open face sandwiches. So you've got like the meat and the gravy and the mashed potatoes, and I did my carnivore waffles instead of bread. And so I did these and I made this, and he was like, I've wanted to try your mashed potatoes for a long time. I just don't want to do the work, Yeah. And he was like, I just can't bring myself to, just get all the stuff and do it. And I was like, that's cool. And so he took a bite, and it was his first time trying them, and he's like, man, and he was just like so upset. He's like, now I feel like I have to get the stuff and make this because it's so much better than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
I mean, and he's a friend, and he's like, and I know your stuff's good, but he's like, even for me, there was this level of skepticism that this could be good.
Yeah.
But then people try it and they're like,
yeah. We haven't made it yet, just because Goran will be the one making it. I cook It's fine. I do some recipes, but I'm not Chris Cooking Nashville. I just with the twins and everything, it's hard for me to do it. But they sure look good. So maybe next time we come to Nashville, you can make some for us.
Yeah.
That'd be so good.
Next time you guys are here, we'll just do a whole Southern style dinner with mashed potatoes and everything. All carnivore.
There was another recipe you did where you made pasta out of shrimp.
Yep. I've done pasta out of several different proteins. I've done shrimp. I've done chicken. I've done beef. And it's an interesting thing to consider, like where my thought process I think went on that one. This is the weird connections that my brain makes. So I was watching YouTube and saw I think it was a Chinese chef. Nothing was in English, so I'm assuming it was Chinese.
Okay.
Nothing was in English, and I'm watching this process, and they were essentially making like shrimp cakes or shrimp balls, and they were taking shrimp and blending it together into a paste with starch of some kind, most likely a potato or a rice starch or something. And then they were making these little, almost like meatballs, and they were boiling them, and then putting them with sauce and all this kind of stuff. And this idea hit me of, well, if you can make a good enough emulsion between meat and dairy and have the right fat ratios and have the right protein ratios, you should be able to then take the paste that will result from that and cook it in multiple different ways and get various kinds of pasta. And so the first one that I did was the mac and cheese, and I used shrimp, and I did the mac and cheese with that. And there's a restaurant that I've been to called San Antonio Taco Company, and they have a queso that is like just really popular amongst all the college students in Nashville. And I am 99% sure cream of shrimp is in that. Because I've tasted it. There's something different about their queso than any other queso I've ever had. And I've tasted it and I'm like, I swear it has cream of shrimp soup in it. It's the weirdest thing. But then that sort of triggered this idea when I was making these pasta noodles. I was like, what if I just turn this into mac and cheese? Because I liked that combo of if there is a shrimp flavor, it would be really good with the cheese vibe. And there is, Two Crazy Ketos have a mac and cheese substitute recipe where they use a little shrimp and they cover them in cheese and they use that like mac and cheese. So the
shrimp or the noodles? The
shrimp or the noodles. And so I was like, so it's not that far out to take shrimp and cheese and put that together because this is a combination that's been done. But by using these little small shrimp and cooking them the way that I do and really getting the extra water out and honestly overcooking the proteins, a lot of the flavors in foods like that, when you overcook them, they come out. And so when you cook those noodles, especially the mac and cheese, I did baked in the oven, which lets it off gas and it lets all those flavonoids kind of turn into gas and dry out. When you do that, a lot of that flavor goes away. And so I made it, and it's like, it's very subtle that there's something there. It's hard to peg that it's shrimp.
You wouldn't be able to
know
identify
what it is unless you're just a super taster. It's real hard to know what it is, but it blends so well with cheese, and it turned into this great, almost boxed mac and cheese flavor.
That's
amazing. The coolest thing.
With shrimp.
With shrimp.
I love how this guy's brain works. So you've had the YouTube channel now for like 2 years. It's been growing. What's your experience with YouTube been like so far?
Oh man, YouTube is a wild game. It is crazy. There are ups and downs. There are good and bad, like anything. But YouTube gives you, number one, the autonomy to do something that you really see a need for in the world and not need investors and permissions and licensing and all the other things to be able to put stuff out into the world media-wise, because that is... Being in the entertainment industry, we deal with this all the time with the legalities of things and stuff. And when you have YouTube, it's like, this is why we all make the disclaimers of we're not giving you medical advice and consult with your doctor, because we're not here to do any of that stuff. We're not giving you any legal stuff. But when you can take your anecdotal stuff and you can put it out there, you have the ability to reach millions and millions and millions of people. And it's free. Like, if you can make your own videos and figure out how to do that, actually putting them on the channel and reaching people, you don't have to have millions of dollars in studio gear and licensing and all this stuff like we used to.
A phone.
A cell phone.
Yeah.
A cell phone and an internet connection. And
everybody has a cell phone and an internet connection.
Absolutely. And you can just change people's lives. And you can reach out to people that there's no other way you would ever reach. You know?
Yeah.
I was doing a live stream in the PhD group and Dr. Barry's group. I do a culinary coach thing in there and do stuff for tribe members. And I've been a member of the tribe over there a long time. And I was doing a live stream, and this guy comes on the live stream and he says, I'm talking to you from a satellite weather station in Antarctica.
What?
And I'm like,
wow.
Seriously? Huh. Like, it's just crazy. And he was like, I'm literally stationed down here for a short time and I'm watching this live stream. And I'm like, this is the coolest thing. Like, you get people from all around the world that talk to you. And so it's a lot of hard work. YouTube is not an easy game. You know this as well as anybody.
Very difficult.
It is very hard. But if you are passionate about it and you love not only reaching people, but providing the information, creating the content, and especially being able to change people's lives and improve just the reach of this community, and especially the idea of what keto and carnivore is, so that the rest of the world can find this, there is no better place on the internet to do it. Yeah,
YouTube is like the end all be all for me.
Yeah.
I mean, I do stuff on Insta and TikTok and stuff, but that's just kind of like an afterthought. Like
Mine
YouTube
too.
Is like where it's at.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm very passionate about the YouTube thing, and I've loved YouTube for a long time.
Same.
It's how I've learned not just the cooking stuff, so many things that I do.
So many things.
All comes from YouTube. You can learn just about anything you need to in today's world via YouTube.
Oh, sure. When we got the Airstream, so we have a vintage Airstream that we've been remodeling, and the subfloor was completely rotted out of the back. We're not carpenters, okay? So we were like, oh, snap. So we went on YouTube. And there wasn't a lot of content around it. So when we fixed it and figured out how to do it, we made a video about it and put it out on our RV channel.
Yeah.
Because you see that when you're creating content, you're like, oh, I'm going to try to find something. Oh, it's not there. Let me solve that problem. I've done that on my channel. You do that on your channel. And it's just a really cool way to just kind of add to the narrative, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's so many ways that you can help people. I know when the whole weird thing with TikTok happened and it like disappeared for a little bit and then it came back. So people had been using things like CapCut to edit videos.
I didn't even realize that was associated with TikTok, because I use that to edit my shorts and it turned off and I'm like, what? I just paid $140 for a year of this. What's going on?
And then all of these YouTubers that I know that are in this community, you know, especially ones that have smaller channels that don't necessarily invest in all of the gear and the editing stuff we do. Suddenly they didn't know how to edit. They're like, well, what do I do? And so a friend of mine and I, we both used DaVinci Resolve to do our editing. We sat down and we did a live stream talking all about the basics of how to download the free version of DaVinci and go in and start editing. And it's like, hey, if CapCut doesn't come back, here's what you can do here, you know? And it's just like, and totally random, we can just put out a solution for people.
Sure. Yeah, totally. Yeah. Editing, you know, it's, I like editing. You do too. I use Premiere Pro, but that software it's just so robust and it can be really intimidating. But honestly, if you just sit down and watch some YouTube videos on how to do it, that's how I learned.
That's how I learned too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So how are your YouTube commenters?
It depends on the video and the day. I will say we are very blessed that we have really worked to cultivate a very supportive community on my channel, because I think the thing that is most important next to what food you are putting in your body when it comes to healing and using keto and carnivore to heal, next to the food you eat, the next most important thing is the people you are surrounded by.
100%.
And it's, you know, like we have a private community of our own that we do this kind of stuff with. We try in the comment section to cultivate this, but we believe that being here, and even if you have differences of opinion, that's cool, but respect and supporting each other as we're all on this journey together is the whole point.
Yeah.
And if people are in the comment section and they are rude and they are ignorant and they are arrogant and they are insulting and they are all these things, they just block from the channel. We just don't even play with it. You know, it's like, and I don't leave it there because this is a really important thing for me personally. When I was almost 400 pounds and I was looking at these kinds of videos and I was trying to understand what I needed to do and how to fix my life, I would go and read comments, because it's so hard to believe that someone who is telling you on the internet that they know this thing is going to help you, right?
Yeah.
There's a million things out there that are going to change your life. And so I would go read comments to see what real people were saying. And when I would see things that were insulting or were, well, why is this person on carnivore and they still have weight to lose? Or this whole keto thing is going to kill you. Or, I mean, any of these things that, comments can say, it would make me start to question, well, should I actually do this or not? Is this really real? Or am I just getting sold another bill of goods? Am I just having hope in something that there's no hope in?
Yeah.
And there are real people that comment being there or not being there might be the difference between them trying it and saving their life or saying, no, this just doesn't seem real. I think it's a bunch of crap. I don't think this is real and whatever. And they die an early death. Yeah. And I'm like, I don't know what the playing out in the long term of any one of those comments may be, but I know that negativity doesn't help anybody.
Sure.
So we absolutely refuse to leave that stuff there. But that doesn't happen a whole lot. Yeah. We get a lot of great comments and a lot of wonderful people. The community is very supportive. They are very invested, especially when it comes to the recipes. We have a lot of people that are like, I'm doing this and my family's not on board.
Yeah.
Your recipes help me feed my family a better diet. Even if they're not keto or carnivore, I can take their carb count and start bringing it down.
And they won't even notice.
And they don't even notice.
Yeah.
And it's like, I can start making things the whole family will eat. And it's like you slowly, one step at a time, are improving your families. And it's not an overnight switch.
No,
it is so hard for so many people to get on board with this and just do it, especially if they're not really buying into it. And these kinds of things, like people in the comment section are talking about, this has changed my life. This has helped my wife. This is my autistic child who can't eat low carb substitutes because they throw it across the room because the texture's not right. They can eat your pizza. And it's the first time I've felt like a good mom in a long time. And I'm like,
that's a big deal. Got goosebumps just thinking about it.
It really will. It really will. Mm-hmm. The first time I ever got an email like that, I told Ash about this. And I remember sitting at our kitchen table and I read this email and I'm sitting here and I'm like, I'm trying to process someone telling me my pizza recipe has made them feel like a good mom.
Isn't that crazy?
Like, that's so heavy in such a great way.
In such a great way, yeah.
It's such a beautiful thing to think that if you can just put stuff out on YouTube, that someone is going to come in your comment section or send you an email or whatever and tell you, here's a real human being on the other side of the internet that you have actually helped and changed their life. And it's incredible. So I would say 99% of the comment section is that, or just questions. And then you have a very loud 1% that needs to be blocked.
Yeah, that's about the same ratio on my channel too. They're always so loud.
They are.
Ugh.
Yes.
It's so funny. There is nothing like the rich, buttery taste of American Wagyu. But it's not just the delicious taste that American Wagyu cattle are known for. It's also their healthy fat profile. They're not like the Japanese Wagyu cows that are all fat and very little meat. American Wagyu cows are known for having more meat than their Japanese counterparts, but the extra fat content makes the flavor of the meat so much better. And if you're following carnivore or a low-carb lifestyle, you'll know that animal fats are integral for human health. I get my American Wagyu from Ozark Valley Beef in Edgar Springs, Missouri. Their cattle are ethically raised and live happy, healthy lives in the Ozark Valley region. These cows are all born, raised, and slaughtered within that same area of Missouri. And they are raised without antibiotics and live the bulk of their lives on pasture. Ozark Valley Wagyu's ground beef is to die for, but they also have amazing ribeyes, sirloins, chuck roasts, and so much more. If you'd like to try out any of Ozark Valley Wagyu's products, you can head to the link in the show notes and use code Jenny15 to get 15% off your order. And if after trying this beef, you're like, oh my God, I'm obsessed, and you want to keep ordering it, you can continue to use my code Jenny15 to save 15% every single time you order. Head to the link in the show notes to try this buttery, delicious American Wagyu steak today. So, people, they know you for your amazing recipes, obviously. We talked a little bit about how you're a musician. You and your wife, you actually tour.
Yeah.
Like, that's your thing. Can we talk a little bit about the music background a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely.
So how did you get into music?
So when I was a kid, I was homeschooled.
Okay.
And part of my schooling curriculum that my mom was putting together was, you're going to pick an instrument.
Okay.
And I was like, well, I don't know what instrument I want to play. And so she was like, well, you need to think about it, and we're going to put you in lessons, and you're going to learn music because it's an important part of a really well-rounded education. And I've always loved music.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about the violin, and my mom had, she'll tell anybody this now, but she had these envisioning moments of what sounds like sawing a cat in half as I'm trying to learn to play the violin as a kid. And so she was like, are you sure? Like kind of, taking me in another direction of maybe there's something else you might really want to do. And we sat down to watch the VH1 Classic channel, which it was a brand new channel on cable. I had seen the little marker for where it was going to be for weeks. And my dad grew up with, he loves like classic rock and everything. So we were really excited about what's going to be on this channel. And so it had gone live. We'd had dinner. We were living in Colorado at the time. And we sit down on our couch in the living room after dinner. And we're like, oh, hey, the VH1 Classic channel is live. Let's see what's on. And my dad turns it on. And it was a Van Halen concert from somewhere in the mid 80s. And just as he turns it on, Eddie Van Halen rips through a guitar solo. And I was like, I want to do that. And my dad and mom are like, you want to play guitar? And I was like, yes, I want to play guitar. Are you sure? Yes, I want to play guitar. I was dead set on it. And so like, okay. So they put me in guitar lessons, and I attached myself to the idea of being a guitar player. And it was the most consistent thing that I did from the time I was about 12 all the way through. And by the time I graduated high school, I was like, I want to do this professionally. And I'd been involved in music camps, and I'd done all these different things, and was really good for my age. And just because I spent so much time obsessively practicing and learning these things. And I ended up going to Belmont University here in Nashville, Tennessee. I started in their guitar performance program, commercial performance, and then switched into the songwriting program. And then I had a whole career in higher education and all this kind of stuff where I went away from music. And then after a number of years, I found my way back to being a musician really full time. And so I built a guitar teaching business, and I really worked on my own chops just to get everything back up, moved back to Nashville because I'd moved away. And I started performing, playing out, doing the whole songwriting thing. Like I was doing all of it, and actually met Ash because I was a musician, met her at a Guitar Center, and I was playing for an artist that she was friends with. And so I got to meet her, and we started dating, and she was like not in any way interested in having me play for her. That was like, nope, business and personal life are two totally different things. And then through a whole long series of events, I ended up playing a show with her randomly, and she was like, oh my gosh, did you feel that? And we got off stage, and she was like, that was amazing. And it was just a thing we just were able to do so much, I think, just because we had that nonverbal communication. Yeah. And as musicians, that's really important. And we were just able to do that just naturally. So I started playing lead guitar for her and doing the band leader stuff for her. And then when she was able to quit the day job she had, after the whole pandemic happened and the music industry tanked and we picked up day jobs, she was able to finally quit her day job and do music full time. And we were working on getting me out of my day job to do YouTube and music full time as well. And we started going on tour, and we started playing and going into the studio. And now that's kind of what we really intended to do when we came to Nashville, both of us. So that's what I really am as a guitar player, studio, live, touring, any of that stuff. And it's a really, really deep passion that I've had for a long time.
Yeah. Well, since we have a musician here, Chris, would you be willing to maybe play a few bars of a song?
I'm sure I could do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Was baptized in country mud, raised blue collar on sweat and blood down the back roads of a little nowhere town. It was hay bales and farmers' fields. Time moved slower than a tractor wheel. The purest way of life I've ever found. But it's not about the place we call home. It's just the love and the truth that don't ever let you go. And no matter where we end up, we know we're not alone. So raise them up proud if you're backwoods or redneck and homegrown.
That was really good.
Well, thank you kindly.
Thank you for sharing that with us. So are you guys currently touring?
Yeah, so we are not touring as heavily as we might normally because I'm in the middle of writing a cookbook. So a lot of things going on. But we actually, this last weekend, we were just up in Ohio. We're going to be going back up to Ohio again. Earlier this year, we were in California. We're going to be over in the Carolinas and Virginias area. Like we kind of bounce all over the place. So we're a little light on touring right now. But we're already starting to book things for next year, so it'll be ramping up. So
that's awesome. Yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned the cookbook because that was my next question. You have a lot of really cool things coming up. Can we talk about the cookbook a little bit?
Absolutely, I'd love to.
Cool. So Chris, you have to have a cookbook. This guy has to have a cookbook, right? So what's going on? What's going on? Where are you in the process?
Yeah. So a cookbook is probably the most requested thing since the beginning of my channel. Of course, everyone's like, "Do you have a cookbook? I want to buy your cookbook." And so I'll be working with Victory Belt, which I know you know who they are, obviously, because you also have an incredible cookbook that's going to be coming out with them. And we have the table of contents is done. We are beginning to write the recipes, taking pictures. Some of the photo stuff actually just showed up the last couple of days. We're getting ready to, start diving in, and we're hoping that the final manuscript will be done by November. And then, all the behind the scenes stuff with the publisher goes on after that, and they'll, figure out when exactly it is we can get it out. But we're hoping sometime early this next year that'll be available and ready to go.
Man, I can't wait for this cookbook.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun.
Goran is like a really big fan of Chris Cooking Nashville, the channel. So yeah, we're definitely going to be using it, and I might just have to try some of your recipes.
You might.
I'm going to have to. It's just a requirement. Yeah. So we ate dinner, the four of us last night, and you showed me the table of contents.
Yeah.
And man, this cookbook's going to be a banger.
I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I think it's going to be really cool. And there's a little bit of everything that you could want in there. And there's things to hopefully appeal to as many people who are interested in this kind of animal-based way of eating as possible. There is a little tweak that will be added in for every single recipe. Some of them might be slightly leaning in a ketovore kind of direction if you want to step it up and add extra flavor. Like there's going to be a whole process of if you start at the beginning of that book and you cook all the way through, it gets more complex as you go. So it's actually going to make you not just better at making carnivore recipes, but it's going to actually make you a better chef as you go through, because you're going to learn skills and build on those skills as you go. And it's just going to give you power and confidence in the kitchen, I hope. Yeah,
and I love that. I love that you start with the more simple and then you build upon those and use those easier recipes as you continue on down the road to the more complicated ones, like the ones that are on your channel. And I also love that you have all these modifications. You could do like really strict carnivore. You could do ketovore, where you're just having a little bit of plant material. You could do keto. Because, not everybody needs to be full carnivore. Keto is just as effective for most people.
Absolutely.
And like you said earlier, you have to make this a lifestyle that you can sustain.
Yes.
And I think that's just one of the great things you're doing for the world is giving us recipes to help us kill it.
I hope so. Yeah, I'm trying to do everything I can to help as many people as possible. And I'm trying to bring the community into it as much as I can. One of the things that is in this book is actually a seasoning recipe where, it's like instead of going to the store, get these ingredients and make your own seasoning blend. And it's Chris Cooking Nashville seasoning, right? It's a seasoned salt that's right at the beginning of the book. And what's really cool is the test batches of this, the test recipes have actually been provided to members of my private community. So they have been testing it and they've had input on like maybe a little more salt or maybe a little more, like they've given me feedback. So our private community has actually had a stake in creating, hopefully, the best seasoning recipe that can be. And so it's, we're just trying to make this something that people feel empowered by, that they get confidence from, and that they feel like they take some ownership of this. Because if we're all going to do this and we're all going to be successful, we got to do this together and we got to take ownership of the lifestyle and live it and love it all the way.
Totally. I'm really glad that you brought up your private community because that was my next question. Let's talk a little bit about that. So what's it all about?
Yeah, so we have a private community called The Band.
Okay.
And, of course, when you're on the road and you're on tour and you're doing things as a musician, your band is who you rely on.
Yeah.
And so we want people to realize when you're a part of this community, we're all here to rely on each other because this can be tough, especially when people in your daily life don't get what you're doing.
For sure.
And it's like, where do you go to dinner? And how do you deal with family gatherings? And like, everyone thinks you're crazy. Like, what do you do? And you need some support. So The Band is a private community. You can come and join. It's a Mighty Networks group. The link is on my website to join.
And I'll put it in the show notes too.
Yeah, it's super fun. It's fantastic. We have not just myself and Ash in there, but we also have some other creators that are a part of this that come in and they just, tell you about things they're doing. Pastor Bob, the carnivore heavy metal pastor of the church we go to, who was a vegan for 40 years and then literally saved his own life and his health by going carnivore. He is in there doing inspirational things, talking about stuff. And there's just a whole community of people that can give you ideas when you're struggling. They can lift you up when you're feeling down. They can celebrate with you when you have a big win. When you have a non-scale victory, you can come in and share it. When you have a scale victory, you can come in and share it. And we will celebrate with you. If you have questions about my recipes, you're trying something, it doesn't work, you can come in and send me a direct message. Might take me a few days, but I will answer you, right? And if I can't answer a question, I'll find someone who can. And we do some private events in there, like private live streams. We have some special guests that you get to tune in live and ask questions before we then post that on the channel later. There are extra recipes I share in there, just all sorts of like special things to try to make you feel like you are more directly involved with the whole Chris Cooking Nashville world, and that you get just extra things that will make your life as a keto or carnivore practitioner that much more stable. And when you have the difficult days, you have a place to go. And when you have the amazing days, you have a place to celebrate. And no matter what, you have a community that is never going to judge you or be angry about what you're doing or tell you, well, you just got to do it harder. Like when you're in the midst of struggling, that's not helpful. And it's a place where you don't have to fear talking openly about what you're maybe not doing well with, and what do you do to get yourself out of that. And there's real people going through it with you. And so it's a place we are very, very proud of, and we have an amazing group of people.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'll definitely put a link to it in the show notes so you can check it out if you'd like to. Chris, this is always a pleasure to see you. I love you so much. I'm glad we were able to take the time to do this. And be sure to subscribe to Chris's channel, because right after we finish filming this pod, he and I are going to go downstairs to the Chris Cooking Nashville kitchen and cook something very special. And you're not going to want to miss that.
Yes. It's going to be a really, really good time. And it is just it is an honor to have Jenny and Goran here, because you guys are amazing and we love you guys, and we just appreciate all the work that you are doing, because as much as you guys may watch my channel and you're a fan of me, I watch your channel and I'm a fan of you. So
that's awesome.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah.
Well, this was awesome. Thank you so much for listening to Meat Matters with Jenny Mitich. I think an air fryer is a required kitchen tool for anybody following a carnivore diet or a low carb way of eating. The air fryer that I have in my kitchen is the Tasty. Tasty air fryer is a game changer. Not only does it go much higher in temperature than any other air fryer on the market, going up to 450 degrees Fahrenheit, but it also has a built-in temperature probe, so you can get your meat cooked to the exact temperature you want every single time. Its sleek design is beautiful on your countertop, and it's also really easy to clean. Tasty just upgraded their basket to have a ceramic coating that is, as always, BPA and PFOA free. So you can rest easy knowing that you're not putting tons of toxic chemicals into your food when you are cooking it. Right now, you can save $30 on your new Tasty air fryer by heading over to tasty.net/Jenny Mitich and using code Jenny30 at checkout. Link and code is in the show notes.